Hello. Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I welcome you back to case study lecture. And last week we we basically did introduction to case study, and we talked about what a case is and what a case could mean, and basically the reason for as accounting professionals, the reason for taking case study paper, we discuss on those things. We equally mentioned about your role as an analyst in the case, and there are two key things we discussed about your role as an analyst in the case, and we said that the first thing is you must be able, I mean, your role is to identify the key issues underlying the case. What are those issues? Why you are presented with that particular case? And you must be able to present your findings, including conclusions and recommendations, in appropriate report format. Those were the two key things that we talked about. So today we are going to move a bit further. I mean, even on a faster note, to uh, to dive deep into what ICAN case study is, so that when you understand what ICAN case study is, what are those things that you are expected to do, what are those things you are expected not to, I mean, you are not to do, and you can get the objective and all those things, then it will give you a very high chance of passing the paper very easily. So today, let's look at the ICAN case study. Now, one thing you should note is that ICAN case study itself is a non-technical paper. And what do I mean by that? Or what do you think I can mean by saying non-technical paper? I mean, when we say non-technical paper, it does not mean that there are no technicalities. Of course, there will always be in ICAN exams. But the idea is that case study is not designed to test your ability to do some of these basic computations, maybe some complex computations that you have been taught under CR, FR, SFM, PM, maybe BMF, and some other papers that you have done calculations before in the past. I mean, other ones that you are still writing in your final paper. So the thing you must know here right now is that about 85 to 90% of the marks, about 85 to 90% of the marks in case study are awarded to report writing. Are awarded to report writing. That is what it means when it says non-technical. That is, the focus is not to test your ability to do some basic computations again, or maybe complex computations, if you like, right? But the idea is that you the paper is to focus on your ability to identify issues that affect businesses. Your ability to identify issues, to solve issues, so that you do not only see, I mean, think you are to identify them, you solve those issues, and you make your report You make a report after solving those issues. That is the main focus of ICAN case study. Of course, it is not to assess your ability to do computations that you have done in the past. Oh, yes, ICAN has tested those principles, those technical skills in SFMPM, FR, and all those papers. Some use they will still test them in SFM and CR at this level. So case study is not to test those aspects. Case study is to test your ability to to solve business issues, real life business issues, issues that affect businesses, and make and make complementary recommendations, solutions to these issues that you have solved. So the aim here is to prepare you to become a financial expert, a business expert that can give expert advice to businesses, to business owners, to employers when you qualify, and to groom you so that you can provide advisory services to businesses, to business owners, to employers, of course, when you qualify as a chartered accountant. So the objectives here is one, to assess your understanding of more complex interrelated business issues, to assess your understanding of more complex interrelated business issues. Now, what you will come across oftentimes in case study is that those issues that will be presented in the case will be interrelated and they will look more complex. Now, let me give you an example. Just think about why on earth do we have to experience the impact of the war between Russia and Ukraine in Nigeria? If you could remember, when the war broke out, there were there was scarcity of petroleum products, of some basic food items like wheat, and because of this scarcity, it results into, demand, increase in demand for this product right here in Nigeria. And because of this increase in demand, prices of these products were escalating. And the impact was that prices of products and services were also increasing. You will agree with me that anything that affects the prices of, say, petroleum products will also affect the prices of goods and services in this country. Our economy is sensitive to the increase in prices of petroleum products. So it basically affected our businesses in Nigeria. We can also discuss about the impact of the COVID-19 on businesses. Excuse me, please. So what you will see is that in cases you want to see how these issues impact businesses, how some economic issues like poverty, increase in poverty, just like it was announced in recently in Nigeria, the rate of poverty, multi-dimensional poverty. So how will this impact on business? How will it affect businesses? How will increase in unemployment rates? How will increase in inflation rate? How will government policies affect businesses? How will the operations, the management skill affect the operations of businesses and their financial impact on the performance of the businesses? These are some of the issues that will likely be brought together you will have to look at how these issues will affect businesses or the business or employer in that scenario. And the other one is to assess your ability to analyze financial and non-financial data. Of course, financial data could be financial statement, the cost information of investment, and non-financial data could be some other data about what are the possible factors that will affect the success of a particular investment. What are the possible implications of demographic reports in a country on the performance of a business? What are the possible impact of of a pandemic on a business, a war on a business, insecurity on a business? And so the case want to assess your ability to analyze these both financial and non-financial data on the performance of a business. Thereby, you make conclusions and recommendations. So what you should know is that now that we are starting, you should know that see, marks will only be awarded to you when you clearly demonstrate certain professional skills. And as from this moment, you will see me, you will hear me mention these professional skills. I mean, what it means is that what we want to do in these classes, at the end of the day, analyze the case, then make a report. So, your report, there are certain things, there are certain skills that the examiner, that the assessors are interested in your report. Those are the skills. So it is only when you demonstrate these skills that marks will be awarded to you. So what are those things that you need as a candidate to pass case study? We have discussed on some of these things before. You need to understand the business situation, where it is located in its life cycle. So possibly if a business is a startup business, then when you see that the business is probably not making enough profit or is yet to be making profit, it could mean that the business is still, recovering from the startup costs. And if the business is in transition of maturity or decline phase, then you will be able to see how these phases will affect the performance of the business. So your job should be that you should be able to link this performance with with the business situation. You should also be able to use relevant data in the case. So what I mean is that there are about three different scenarios that cases could come. We could have the other scenario whereby you are to look at the financial statement analysis. The other scenario could be that you have to look at the financial data, in other words, the investment decisions that the business is looking forward to
No, no,
make.
no. You
And the other,
want to see me? Can we stand there?
hello, okay, let me
Mm.
mute you. And the other one is we could be looking at a situation whereby you want to use models to analyze the operations of a business. So, in any case, you must be able to identify what case you are answering and the relevant data that you need to use to answer that particular scenario. Then you must be able to apply your knowledge of technical matters. And here, is a very important aspect of this paper. Of course, I talked about technicalities, technical skill the other time, and I said it's basically about your ability to do some basic computations. So, in other words, you must be able to apply those technical skills that you have learned in some papers like PM, SFM, FRCR, CSME, and some other papers like that. So you must be able to apply this knowledge to the case. Of course, you could be given a scenario whereby you're asked to interpret the financial performance of your business. Then your knowledge of ratio analysis, your knowledge of interpretation of financial statement comes into play. You could be given a scenario whereby a business is looking forward to make an investment and they are looking forward to appraise that investment. So your knowledge of investment appraisal techniques comes into play. Possibly, a business is looking forward to look at the value chain of its business, the operations of its business. Then your knowledge of value chain model comes into play. So you have to be able to apply those things that you have learned in the past in the case. Then you develop appropriate analysis. You apply professional skepticism. And professional skepticism here is just saying that you will be provided with lots of data and information. And as a professional to be, or as a professional person, you shouldn't depend or rely totally on the data presented to you as though it is 100% accurate or complete. What I mean is that you should develop a skill as a professional to question data, information presented to you when you are given a job to do, when you are given a task to accomplish. You should be able to question the data that has been presented to you. Then evaluate the outcome of your analysis in order to make judgment. Then develop clear conclusions and state reservations. Your reservations are those areas that you are skeptical about, those issues that you are skeptical about. Then make recommendations based on your analysis. Your recommendations should be based on your analysis. That is, what you are recommending them to do should be based on how you have analyzed the issue and the solutions you have come out you come out with from such analysis. Then lastly, you should produce a well-structured document, that is report, a well-structured document, a well-structured document using appropriate language to communicate your ideas to your audience. So these are those things that you need in order to pass case study. Now, one of the things I normally do is for you to understand why you are writing case study paper, for you to understand the intricacies, the differences between case study and other ICAN papers, is to compare case study with other papers. The first difference between the two papers is the difference in structure of the exam. The difference in structure of the exam. Now, what you will see is that every other exam that you will write, that you have written, will only give you about 3 hours, maximum of 3 hours for the exam. Case study, on the other hand, we allow you 4 hours for the exam. Why? Because it takes a lot of thinking. The exam takes a lot of thinking. The exam comes with a lot of information, data, and it will also require you to produce a report. So these are the reasons why the exam will take you 4 hours. Unfortunately, the 4 hours will never be enough for you for the exam. I have to tell you this now. It will never be enough for you for the exam. So what you will need to do is to practice strict time management. I spoke about time management in our first class. You have to follow the timing, how the time has been allocated to various things, to different things that you are expected to do in the exam. Reading should not be more than 1 hour. In fact, reading should be less than 1 hour now, because you would have been given part of the case, which is the precinct, before the exam. Nothing should now make you to start reading the precinct again on the exam day. You should rather focus on the unseen part of the case, which should not take you 1 hour again. Your computations should not take more than 1 hour. So many times, students have come out to tell us that the reason why they know the reason why they failed. The reason why they failed was they spent too much time on computations. Again, the computation should not be more than 1 hour. 30 minutes for computation on requirement 1, 30 minutes for computation on requirement 2. And the report writing, which is the major thing in the exam, requires 2 hours. So now look at it. If you have spent over an hour reading, you have spent over an hour, doing computations, that means you have less than 2 hours to write the report, which will never be enough. So strict time management and your ability to discipline yourself to only answer the requirements. You're not doing something else. Right. So the other difference is the preparation towards the exam. So because case study usually comes with real life scenario, you have to develop a real life skill in answering cases. And these skills cannot be practiced on the exam day. I think last week I told you about some of our students that I spoke with personally. I once said, Mr. Jimo, I fuck up myself. I never practiced anything. I never practiced report writing. In fact, my first practice was the exam itself. I used the exam to do my practice. That is very wrong. You should have practiced that skill that you want to use in solving the case before the exam. Some of these skills, you could have learnt them from your office. Of course, you would have seen that your boss, maybe your senior colleagues, have been preparing reports in the office. You can talk to them to learn how to do reports. Use the report technique or the case analysis technique that will be taught in this class. You should practice them as well. And the last one is that the difference in the assessment criteria for case study. And this takes us right into a step further. This makes us go a step further into case study, because the assessment criteria is totally different from every other paper. As a matter of fact, the assessment criteria takes a process known as competency-based assessment. It means that, so CBA means that assessing your report follows a process whereby it is your competency on certain skills that will fetch you marks in the exam. That is what it means. It means that your work in the exam will be divided into separate skill sets, and your competency on each of these skill sets will determine how many marks will be awarded to you, will determine how many marks you will come out with in the exam, which is different from other papers. So again, another thing you should note is that cases come in a case scenario, and the case scenario will be presented in exhibits. So exhibits are more like, let me give you an instance. In your office, your boss just call you and say that, Amaka, please, there's a job I want you to do. A client has just asked us to produce a report on certain issues that the business is going through. So I will send some documents to you. So immediately after that discussion, you receive you receive an email telling you your responsibilities in the case. After that particular email, you receive another mail from your boss that is being forwarded from the client talking about the background of the business. Say the first mail is exhibit 1, the second mail is exhibit 2. You receive the third mail from your boss again, which is about some information about the industry in which the client operates, termed exhibit 3. You receive another mail again about the financial statement of the client. We can call that exhibit 4. You receive another mail again about a recent news, or government publication about that industry, recent regulatory requirement about that industry. It is being forwarded to, let's term that exhibit 5 or 6. Now, all of these exhibits combined together will form the case scenario. We form the case scenario. Okay? So I've talked about the timing for the exam, how the time is being allocated. So I told you that reading and planning 1 hour, performing computations 1 hour, writing your report 2 hours. Okay? So now I need to tell you about those skills needed for case study. There are 3 basic skills that are needed for case study exam. The first one is the technical and business skill. So I will focus on more on technical skills, right? And when I say technical skills, I want your mind to run back to those other papers that you have written before or that you are writing presently. So the major ones are FR and CR, PM and SFM. These are the major ones, and and CSMA. These are the major ones. Of course, some other papers form the basis of these papers. We could talk about tax, then audit. But the major ones are these ones for case study. So you need the knowledge, particularly how to interpret financial reports, ratio analysis from FR and CR. You need the knowledge of project appraisal, costing techniques, business valuation, budgeting from PM and SFM. And you need the knowledge of models, business models from CSME. This forms the technical skill needed for this exam. Just imagine you have to interpret the financial statement of the business in the case. Then you need the knowledge from FR and CR. Maybe there are some reporting issues. You need the knowledge of FR and CR. Maybe there are some standard issues, issues of how some standard have been applied. You need your knowledge of FR and CR. Now, maybe there's a case of you to appraise a particular investment in a same plant and machinery. You need the knowledge of PM and SFM. Thankfully, most of you, of course, you have passed PM, and most of you are writing SFM now. And one other thing is that my other colleagues, we also try as much as possible to do some kind of revision on some of these things. Revision, because it is assumed that you have been taught all these things. So we are not supposed to go into those things, but they will try as much as possible to do a kind of revision. Why I focus on helping you to learn how to write reports. So this technical skill will help you in coming out with evidences on which you will base your conclusion and recommendations. They will help you to come out with facts on which you will base your conclusions and recommendations. The other skills are analytical skills. And in this case, there are three major analytical skills that you need. We have the financial statement. We have the financial statement analytical skill. Financial data analytical skill. Financial data analytical skill. And we have operational and strategic strategic analytical skill. These are the three analytical skills that will be tested in this exam. And you need the knowledge of this analytical skill in order to solve the case properly. And the other analytical skill is communication skill. Now, whenever for communication skills, I just want to focus on report writing, report writing skill. So your ability to present your findings, your conclusions, your recommendations in appropriate report format that will fetch you marks, at least marks that will help you pass the exam. So you need this communication skill as well. So three important skills for this exam: the technical and business skill, the analytical skills, and the what? Communication skills. Then we could talk about which is better, quality or quantity. Which is better? Now, what the better for case study exam is what? is quality. That is it for you to write so much or to write little with quality? Of course, little with quality makes the difference. Is the best for case study exam. And what makes quality in this exam is what is when your script stays relevant throughout the case. And when I talk about relevancy, it means that you are only answering what the two requirements set before you in the exam. That's what makes you relevant. Just imagine, just imagine that these three analytical skills will form the basis of the requirement. And when you are asked to do financial statement analysis and financial data analysis, but instead of focusing on these two, you only focus on financial statement analysis and operational and strategic analysis, and you left out the financial data analysis. That means this that you have done here will be what? Irrelevant. And there will be no marks awarded for those things that you have done there. Whatever you have done under that operational and strategic analytical skill or analysis, you will not get any mark for it. So the good thing is you should stay relevant no matter the quantity of what you write. But when you stay relevant with what you are asked to do, is the key thing to pass the exam. So let's look at the case assessment, case study assessment, and allocation of marks. Remember, I told you that under the differences between case study and other papers, I said the case study approach follows a process known as what? Competency-based what? Assessment. It follows a particular process known as competency-based assessment. And here is the idea behind competency-based assessment. Remember, I told you that your report, so here is basically different parts of your report. It means that these are the parts your report will be divided into. Your report will be divided into these 5 parts. And each of these parts, we should look at this part as what? As skill sets. Let's look at them as skill sets. These are the various skill sets that they want you to demonstrate. That you should show that you are competent on each of these skill sets. Now, each of these skill sets are further divided into smaller skill sets, and we can call them skill boxes or skills. Okay, now what it means is that executive summary, which is the first part of your report or first skill in your report, is expected to be divided into, will have 5 sub skills. There are 5 sub skills under executive summary. It means that when you are producing executive summary, when you are writing executive summary in the exam, in your report, see, the assessors, the examiner expect you to do 5 major things, nothing else. 5 major things under the executive summary. It means if you're able to do those 5 things perfectly, very well, then you are good to go. You are doing the right thing. Then you will remain relevant in the exam. I told you that there will be 2 questions. So in case study, we call questions requirement. There will be 2 requirements in the exam. Each of these requirements is expected to be reported separately under a single report. And each report of each requirement is expected to have 8 skills. You're expected to demonstrate 8 skills under, say, section 1 for requirement 1. There are 8 things that you must demonstrate. For requirement 2, the same thing applies. There are 8 things that you must do. Then for overall report, overall paper, so what that means is that looking at the overall paper that you have written, your report, there are certain skills that that the examiners, the assessors will be looking at, will be looking for. For example, have you numbered your report? If the report is an external report, did you include by any chance disclaimer? How did you present your point? Have you present your point in sentences or paragraphs? These are some of the little skills that they will look for. So there are 2 of those skills that they will look for in your report. And under the overall report again, there are appendices. Appendices are where you do your computations. Computations are not expected to be done in the body of your report. Of course, just like research, when you are doing research, you are writing your project research. Then you know your appendices comes at the back of your report, where you put your computations, your tables, graphs, and many other things. So you're expected to produce appendix for requirement 1, appendix for what? Requirement 2. Excuse me, please. The good thing is that each of these skill sets, there are 4 marks allocated to each of them. It means that the total marks for executive summary alone is 20 marks. Each skill that you demonstrate here attracts 4 marks. If you demonstrate all the 5 skills here, you end up getting how many marks? 20 marks. Each of the 8 skills under requirement 1 attracts 4 marks each. So the total marks you could get for requirement 1 is what? 32 marks. Each of the 8 skills for requirement 2 attracts 4 marks. The total marks for requirement 2 is 32 marks. Each of the skills under the overall paper report is two skills and 4 marks each. That is 8 marks in total. The same thing is applicable to the appendices. If you create appendix 1 for requirement 1, you get 4 marks. Create appendix 2 for requirement 2, you get another 4 marks. And that is where the 100 marks for this exam lies. But here is the thing about these marks. Before now, before November 2019 diet, when the current syllabus was introduced, we used to have nothing like executive summary. We just have requirement 1 and other things. And each of these parts of the report, you get 5 marks each. At the end of the day, it is very easy for you to score, for you to pass. So why I'm telling you is that excuse me, please. Why I'm telling you this is that then it is very easy for you to pass. When you answer requirement 1 alone, you score about 40 marks. Requirement 1 alone is 40 marks. 2 is 40 marks. So if you are able to write requirement 1 very well, you are you have already passed the exam. You have already passed the exam. But now, here is the thing that makes it difficult to pass case study. And because most students find it difficult, they get distracted. They waste so much time on competitions. Remember, I told you strict time management. So they would rather waste so much time here when doing competitions. And at the end of the day, they will only manage, they will only manage to write on requirement 1. And because they only manage to do this, so I want to assume this kind of student did not attend this kind of lecture and does not know that there is need for him or her to do certain things. So the student did not even know that there are 8 skills that he or she must demonstrate under even that requirement 1, and as such did not even score up to. So let me assume the student was only able to score like 15 for requirement 1. He did not know anything about this overall report. He did computation for requirement 1, and this will be 4 marks. 4 plus 15, that is 19. Now, here is the thing. The executive summary here is only a summary of these 2 requirements. Executive summary is the summary of these 2 requirements. And if the candidate has only answered, you know, requirement 1 not perfectly well, that means he cannot even score up to half. You know, it's only requirement 1, that is half, that is 10 marks. So he will not even be able to score up to half of the requirement, executive summary. So 19 plus say 5, that is about what, 24. And this is the reason why many students fail this paper, because they lack the understanding of how this paper is being marked. There are 5 basic grades in case study. There are 5 basic grades in case study. The first one is superior achievement, or the marks under each of these case sets. So let's take, for example, let's take for example, you are doing executive summary. Are you with me? Okay, 4, 5. So what superior achievement means is that to do under executive summary is 4 marks each. Okay? I hope you are following me. Each of the things these are the things that you're expected to do under executive summary, and 4 marks each. Now, superior achievement is saying that for you to, and superior achievement is 4 marks, means that for you to score 4 marks allocated to this skill 1 under executive summary, you must have made 4 relevant points to score 4 marks. You must have made 4 relevant points to score 4 marks. The next one is competent achievement. What competent achievement is saying is that the candidate, though, made so much remarks or comments, but it is only 3 out of this comment that are relevant to the case. And as such, that candidate will only get 3 marks under the skill 2, under the skill 2, under this executive summary. Below competent achievement is saying that under the skill 3, under our executive summary, the candidate though made so much point, but only 2 of those points are relevant, and as such, these candidates will only score 2 marks under scale 3. Not competent achievement is another grade which says that the candidate was only able to make what? The candidate was only able to make what? One relevant point out of many points he or she has made. And the last one, which is void, says that even though the candidate made so much point in the exam, none of those points are relevant to the case. So this is how grades will be applied to each of these skill sets in the exam. Each of these skill sets, these grades will be applied and will determine the marks you will score here, which will determine the total score you will get in the exam. So again, I talked about analytical skill, and I told you that there are 3 major analytical skills in this exam. There are 3 major analytical skills in this exam. And the good thing about understanding these analytical skills is that the 2 requirements in the exam can only test these 3 analytical skills. The 2 requirements can only test either 2 or the 3. So I think, I don't know, because my internet is intact. Nothing happened to my, but the thing just logged me out. All right, so I was talking about the analytical skills because the whole idea about case study, about you doing reports in the case study, centers on the 3 analytical skills that will form the basis of the 2 requirements, the 2 questions in the case. And these are the 3 analytical skills. That is, these skills are how you analyze those issues, the direction, the technique. They determine the direction, the technique you will use in analyzing those issues that have been raised in the case. The first one is the operational and strategic analytical skill or analysis. And that is what you will hear most students call business analysis. And there are tools that we use for business analysis. So in any scenario where we are to do business analysis, it means there are the business models in your CSMA. SWOT model, maybe PESTEL model. We could also talk about value chain model, about Porter's 5 forces model, and lot of these models. These are those models that are applicable or tools that you can use whenever a requirement asks you to do business analysis. These are the solve that particular uh, requirement. So when you hear me say business analysis. I want your mind to quickly run through to CSMA and say, oh, that means we have some things to use under CSMA. The other analytical skill is financial statement analytical skill. I think my internet is the problem. Okay, it's kind of fluctuating, and I have uh, about 50 more minutes to go or less. So before we go today, let's look at let's look at one critical part of your report. One critical part of your report, which is
Please, can
executive
anyone hear the
summary.
lecturer?
Yes, I can hear
We
him.
can hear
Hello?
him now.
Yes.
But,
Okay.
sir, the previous explanations we were doing before the network issues, you didn't finish up with it on the
Oh,
analytical
these
skills.
explanations,
Yes, sir. From that analytical skills,
I
you were
didn't finish
saying,
the.
yes, sir, yes, sir, you did it.
Okay, maybe I continued later, Sha, but maybe let me just come back a bit.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So I said that they are the skills that you will use to solve the case. So the strategic analytical skill, we call business analysis. And I said analytical skill. I want your mind to run will be useful here. Model, benchmarking model. There are lots of these models that were not tested then. And your knowledge of these models will be tested under business analysis or operational and strategic analytical scale. Then when you hear financial statement analytical scale or financial statement analysis, your knowledge of interpretation of financial statement under financial reporting and corporate reporting will be needed. That is, your ability to do ratio analysis or your ability to use ratios to interpret the financial report of an organization is what it should be done under financial statement analysis. And financial data analysis is your knowledge, is to test your knowledge of SFM and PM, that is project appraiser and all sorts will be tested under financial data analysis. These are the possible analytical skills that you can use to answer the two requirements. So the issue here is that you must first identify which of these three is being asked in the requirement. And the thing is that if you mistakenly, let's assume you are asked to do one and two, but you misinterpreted one of the two requirements, thereby you do financial data analysis. So instead of doing two as the second requirement, you now do one and three instead of you get marks based on one that you have done. Because this three is like your own question that you have solved, actually given. You only interpreted these
Sir, we are finding out to hear you.
two as three and you solve three instead of two. So no mark will be awarded to you on this, on to understand the idea behind this three analytical scale. Again, what each of these skill sets is to take each of these skill sets one by one and teach under each of these skill sets. What are those sub skills under each of these skill sets? So I have to teach you. So once you are able to understand this, you have about 80% chance of passing this paper. 12 cases, maybe two or three. And my colleagues will read two cases, then the two other cases you write paper two. So making three cases that you choose. Hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Zenon,
Sir, we hardly could hear what you said all through.
can you hear me? Ah,
I hardly could hear you very well all through the time.
It breaks.
oh,
We hardly heard you well at all.
I don't know. I don't know the issue again now. Okay. So where last did you hear me? Where last? I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I said that the next thing is for me to now start taking you each of these parts of your report. You know, I told you that these are the areas in which your report in the exam will be divided into. These are more like the skill sets that you are expected to demonstrate, that the examiner expects you to demonstrate in your report. Okay, so the thing is, if I can teach you, you understand each of these skill sets. If you understand further, what are those sub skills under each of these skill sets that you are expected to do or to work on, then you have about 90% chance of passing the exam. So let's look at the first one, which is executive summary. Executive summary was introduced in November 2019 diet when the current syllabus was, introduced to the syllabus, to the paper. And one thing about executive summary is that it will come after your cover page. That is, it comes as the first thing in your it comes as the first thing in your to be presented in your report, though it will be written last in the report, but you present it first, right? So executive summary looks more like an abstract in research. So here is an abstract in research. You know, the thing about research is that in the academics, research is one of the major criteria, is one of the major criteria that the academics use, I mean, they use for the academics to grant, uh, what do you call it? There are about three requirements. Research is one of it, teaching is there, and community service. You know research, you know teaching. Community service is when a lecturer is appointed as HOD, VC in one community member or the other. That is community service. So, but for research, for you to for you to make waves in research, you have to be cited in known journals. And how do you get citations? Is when people are able to use your work, are able to cite your work in their own work. Now, how can they cite your work in your own work? The only way it will be easy for them to find your work and be able to find it useful and be able to cite it in their own work is when you put an abstract at the beginning of your work. Just imagine a new researcher looking for materials, looking for journal, looking for articles and all that to work with. And you do not have an abstract in your journals or your article, it means that that person will have to read all everything you have written in that work you have done. And that will make the person get tired of what you have written. But imagine you have an abstract, and here is the thing about an abstract. An abstract will cover the purpose why are doing that research or why you have carried in the research. Now, what findings? Maybe qualitative research method, quantitative research method, maybe even mixed research method. Your methodologies, your findings, your conclusions, and
We can't hear you again, sir.
I think it's better we take the questions and answers and continue this topic next class. Your network is really not stable, like we can't hear you.
recommendations.
Sir, we can't hear
Invariably,
you again, sir.
these are the key areas. For abstract, we need to capture all these data, or researchers come and decide whether it is useful to their own works. That is the essence of abstract. Can you hear me? In the
Yes,
class.
sir.
Can you hear me
We
now?
can't hear you, please.
We can't hear you
Yes.
at all, sir.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Everything you were
Let,
saying, we can't hear.
okay. Let me send a message. Let me send a message. All right. So if you can hear me, those cases, those cases are meant for you to practice on, right? So the report writing technique I will teach you will require you to practice it. And like I said earlier on, report writing is skill based. You have to learn the skill. Learning the skill requires that I teach you the skill, then you now practice the skill. So I will use one of the cases to demonstrate how you use the skill, how you write report. Then two other cases that my colleagues will read with you, and they will solve it, like they will do the computation aspect of it. So you will then use the report writing technique, apply it and write report again. I hope that is clear. Any other
Yes, very
question?
clear, sir.
Mhm. Any other question? Any other question, please? Okay. So if there are no more questions, please let's end the class here. Okay.
All right, so please get the material.
I will share the material with you.
All right, thank you, sir.
The material for last class, I shared it now. Were you able to get it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll have it there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. All right. All right, thank you. See you next week. Goodbye.
Sir, I don't have the material. Some of us just joined today.
Eh,
Yes.
Yes, please. Which WhatsApp group, please?
it's on the WhatsApp group
Let's
for
have
case
the whole
study.
material, I beg.
Please kindly indicate for us to join.
Okay, okay. Okay.
And
Then you
resend
receive
the
the material.
I will share it. Don't worry.
Thank you.
All
thank
right.
you, sir.
Goodbye.